Okay, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us for today's webcast on NetSuite, Dashboard and Reports. My name is Chris Jones. I'm a Business Development Manager here at GSI, and I'm very pleased to welcome our main presenter, Jimmy Morales. Jimmy is a consultant here at GSI, specializing in NetSuite. He's been here for about a year, and he has background in ERP, web development, and consulting. So welcome, Jimmy. Before we get started, I want to give you a chance to review our safe harbor statement. Now for a quick overview of today's meeting. We will go over a couple housekeeping items, as well as provide a brief company overview on GSI. I'll then turn it over to Jimmy to get into the main presentation, which will last roughly 40 to 45 minutes. We'll then go over our upcoming GSI educational events, and then we'll wrap it up with a 10-minute Q&A session. If you'd like to submit a question, you can do so through the questions panel at the bottom of the GoToWebinar console window, which is located on the right side of your screen. Please note, all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. If you'd like to minimize your GoToWebinar console window, just click the red right-facing arrow key on the top, and then clicking the left arrow key will then return the console so you may input your questions. And now, a brief overview on GSI. GSI is a full-service consulting and managed services organization. We specialize in NetSuite, JD Edwards, and Salesforce. We are an Oracle Platinum partner that was founded in 2004 and now has over 100 employees. We do have offices nationwide, and we are recognized on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies in the United States. We specialize in project consulting, managed services, in addition to cloud and hosting services. All of our services are backed with a 100% guarantee. GSI is a forward-thinking product development company that has many popular products, including Genius, which is our advanced monitoring and performance analytics solution for JD Edwards or any business-critical system on any platform. Genesis, which is our load and stress testing application for system design, validation, or expansion for JD Edwards or any web-based business-critical system. G Shield, which is GSI's two-factor authentication and password reset solution for JD Edwards. Rapid Approval, which is a configurable application in Salesforce for quickly processing workflow approval requests within Salesforce. JDE Cloud9, which is our private hosting solution for JD Edwards. And finally, Rapid Reconciler, which allows you to effectively manage your inventory in transit and R&B reconciliation processes for any version of JD Edwards, Enterprise One, or World. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Jimmy to get started with the main presentation. Jimmy?
Thank you. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and present my screen here. Just bear with me here. Chris, let me know if you're able to see it.
Not yet.
All right, give me one sec here. A little bit of difficulty sharing my screen here.
Oh, something just popped up.
Should be a PowerPoint.
No, just your picture.
Just my picture?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, again, my name is Jimmy Morales. I'm one of the consultants here specializing in NetSuite. Today, what we're going to be looking at is, and this is what to expect in this demonstration, what dashboards and portlets are. We're going to cover a little bit on how to customize those dashboards and portlets. We're going to learn how to capture and extract unique data points in NetSuite and how to analyze those points using Report Builder. So since we have a lot to cover today, we're going to get straight into the demonstration. And I'm going to pull up our NetSuite screen. This is going to be the first thing that you see each time that you log into NetSuite. This is the dashboard. The dashboard is available to each of the items, these tabs within your center. So the center, being this top row here, can have a dashboard for each tab. So if I go over to my custom center tab, I'll have a different dashboard than from my home tab. My home tab is going to be the tab that I see every single time I log in. You can customize these dashboards and these home tabs to be based on roles. A lot of them are pre-configured. So for example, if I want to work with an existing dashboard for, say, the sales role in my US subsidiary, I switch my role over and the home page will welcome me to different portlets that are already pre-configured for this role. These portlets are each of these small windows here. These tiles can be moved around just by clicking and dragging to different areas within your dashboard, and they will automatically format to fit the different areas within the dashboard. So going back over to my administrator role, some examples of some portlets that you're able to see are KPIs, which would be these key performance indicators here. And you can even have KPI meters. You can have saved searches, which are searches that will pull information, such as these case issues here. You can have reminders. These reminders can be customized even further to be color-coded, or obviously you can see there's some that are larger than others based on the numbers that appear here. You can have trend graphs, such as this monthly receivables trend. You can have reports or even suite apps. Suite apps are Java suitelets that allow you to pull information with pop-ups and dynamic components here, just like the subsidiary navigator. A practical business case would be if I want everyone in my sales team to track the top industries that we sell to. So most organizations hopefully know the answer to this already, but we've created a saved search that displays that for us. So we'll go over to our list here. I'm going to go to search, and I'm going to go to my saved searches. And actually, I can even type it in the global search field here. So this would be top customers, top customer industries. And this saved search will pull all of the industry types and the total amount of sales available within each industry. So in this case, we know that wine and distilled beverages is going to be our top performing customer industry. Now, the customer industry is a field that exists in the customer record that tracks for each sale which industry that the customer resides in. So drilling down, I know that within the wine and distilled beverages, that my top customer is going to be Everett Fine Wines. You can see that they've done the most high number of transactions with us, and they also are a very frequent buyer from us. So we know that that is our best customer. We also know that in our next top industry, sporting and recreation goods, that Academy Sports and Outdoors is one of our top customers. So we can get an idea using our saved search. However, if I want to pull that into a portlet, then we're going to need to track a specific piece of information over a period of time. So again, in the practical business case we're talking about, we want to track the top industry over a period of time, which in this case is going to be wine and distilled beverages. So I want to throw that information directly on my home page portlet. So the way you start building portlets is you can hit this personalize drop down here. And again, you can see the selections from what we talked about, KPI meters, calendar information, custom searches, lists, and so forth. In this case, we're going to be pulling a trend graph. Now, there's a few things to remember with trend graphs. It can be a little tricky because they have a strict criteria to remember. You can access that criteria by going over to Help and Suite Answers. Suite Answers has been updated as of this month, so all of the information regarding portlets and dashboard creation is now consolidated into a single PDF that you can download. So rather than going through that, I will just tell you that the 3 rules that you want to apply towards a trend graph is it needs to be quantifiable, having one grouped or summed or counted field. It has to report against a single segment of data, so I can't have all of my industries trending over time because I'm tracking a single segment of data. And it has to allow for tracking over time. So we need to have a filter set available for this particular trend graph that is by date, and it can't be established already in the search filters because we want to be able to adjust it just like this monthly receivables trend graph, monthly, daily, weekly, and so forth. So we have our saved search. However, that saved search that we had just gave us the top industries that we're performing in. In this case, we need to create a new saved search that gives us the total sales for that specific industry. In this case, wine and distilled beverages. So we're going to go over to our lists and we're going to hit search, save searches, new. Now in this case, we know that the type of information we're looking for is a transaction because we're looking at invoices. We're looking at sales that are completed. So I'm going to go ahead and type in transaction. And I'm just going to find where it's at because I've got a lot of different types of fields that we can create save transaction or save searches for. So in this case, we're going to go to transaction. We're going to build our save search out that's ready for our trend graph. So we're going to be tracking our wine and distilled beverages trend. What are we looking for? We are going to be looking for invoice type transactions because this is going to pull all transactions. So we want to select transaction. And oh no, where is it? It's not going to be found here because this type of transaction is going to be on the transaction field. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. It's actually going to be under type. This is going to apply for our next example, which is going to be our industry. So for the transaction type, we're going to select type. And in this case, any of the selected transaction types, in this case, we're going to select field. You can hold control and you can pick multiple types. We're just looking for invoice types. In here, our next filter is we want to make sure that it's within the industry of wine and distilled beverages. So this is another example of one that won't appear here, or this is the real example of what won't appear here. Now, if I just start typing customer, because we know we're looking in the customer table, we're not going to find it here. And the trick is you actually need to scroll down to the very bottom, and that's where you can find additional fields that are within separated tables. So in this case, we're looking at the customer table, which is going to be scrolling. Unfortunately, you have to scroll to it. You can't just start typing because it's going to populate the first iterations of it. So now we're back over to C's again, and our customer mainline fields. And now I can pick the specific field. In this case, it's going to be industry type. This is a custom list that we've created within the system. So that's why we have to build everything around it. In this case, we're looking for wine and distilled beverages. I hit set. Now I'm ready to pull all the transactions that are invoices and associated with wine and distilled beverages. On my results tab, I can define how much information is being pulled. And I remember the 3 rules that we have. We want a quantifiable field, and we only want to summarize by 1 field. So in this case, we're going to be going by our net amount. Is probably more appropriate. And this summary type is going to be sum. So we're adding up all of the transaction amounts for wine and distilled beverages. We want to sort by amount now that we've removed date from our filters or fields. So we'll go ahead and sort by amount net as well. And we'll do descending. Now, available filters is where we're going to define the date option as another way to drill down this information. And again, we want to leave this open. You can show the filter in the region, which is when you're actually using the transaction, the saved search. But in this case, it doesn't really apply because we're going to turn this into a trend graph. So we now have our wine and distilled beverages trend. I can save this. Wine and distilled beverages trend. We now
Hey, Jimmy there. Okay. Just hold on 1 second, folks. We'll try to get Jimmy back. Might have lost connection. Okay, well, that's a first. I just spoke to him. He had a blackout outage where he is located in California. So he's rebooting everything right now, including his modem, and he will be back in a few minutes. So I appreciate everyone staying patient while we come back to this, but he is trying to reboot, and we'll be back with you very shortly. Thank you very much.
Okay, my computer says I'm reconnected. Chris, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can. I just couldn't get to the mute button fast enough, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. All right, folks, I'm really sorry about that. Hopefully that was just a minor delay. Had a complete blackout in this whole area. It's pretty weird. Okay, so we're back. Chris, can you see my screen? It should be right where I left off. I was able to maintain the connection.
Exactly, in the search tab, yep.
Okay, perfect. So great. So also a good demonstration of working out of the cloud. Just to actually also a good example of how NetSuite preserves all of the form information that you have, because it's all captured in the cloud. So it actually preserved everything that I've done. So we have our trend, first iteration of our trend search, which pulls the sum amount of exactly what I was looking for. So now we have the exact amount over all periods, because we've restricted the date to all for this particular safe search. I'm actually ready to put this into our trend chart or trend graph now. So we're going to go over to personalize. We go to trend graph, and you can drag the portlet down into any area of your dashboard. And the 3-barred menu button here will allow you to set up that trend graph. So in this case, you have pre-existing trend graphs that you can choose. Our saved search won't appear here because this is a custom KPI. And from here, I should be able to see my wine and distilled beverages trend. I can open up the date to the monthly, daily, weekly, or quarterly periods, and I can show a moving average over the previous 2 periods. And here's our first trend graph. One cool feature that you can do within the trend graph functionality is, if I'm unsure about where data points fall, you can actually highlight, just like in a mapping system where you highlight an area and it will zoom in. You can actually drag over a period of time and it will zoom in into that period. So if I know that April 2017 is somewhere between 0 and $1 million, I may want to zoom in to that and find out exactly where it's at. In this case, just under 500,000. So that's how you actually can set up your first portlet. We also can customize reports within NetSuite. Reports allow you to access most tables in NetSuite, and an easy way to build custom reports is to customize existing ones. So you can do this by drilling down in the report menu, and you can see all of these existing reports, and you can follow the drill down path and actually go straight to customize. If you click the report item, it will take you directly to it, or you can hit customize. So a good practice would be to ask the stakeholder what report they're working off of and what it's not doing that's enough for them. And then you can actually just add columns, remove columns, role restrictions, and so forth, instead of starting from scratch. Now, in our example, our top sales by industry is built off of a custom field. So there's not a lot of reporting built out into the system based off of our unique data capture point. So we're going to need to create a new report from scratch. So I'm going to go to Report, New. And on the left-hand side, you can see the different metrics. All reports are going to be built on metrics. And in this case, I'm going to be working off of the sales metric. Now we can begin defining the report. So here's a kind of a good example of when you're personalizing dashboards. This personalized dashboard is set to a black and white theme, and not all fields are going to be appropriate for these subtabs to be black, because now we have black on black and it makes it a little hard for me to read. So just be careful when you're selecting themes for your users and roles. Most of it's personalized to you, so if you don't like it, you can always just personalize it again from your home settings. But just a side note, in this case, we're going to start defining the report. We're going to be looking at top sales by industry. And we're going to want to pick the first metric that we're reporting on. It defaults to transaction total, which just happens to be what we're looking for. But if I click this drop down, you can see all the different metrics that we can choose from, which there's a very wide variety of selections that you can choose. We're going to select the format of the report. In this case, I want to show you detail so we can see the drill down functionality and how we can break apart all of the industries by customer all the way down to the invoice level. We also can choose how we subtotal the report. In this case, we're going to look at the customer, and we want to subtotal by the amount or the total. Let's see here. Should be the transaction total revenue. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is, we want to do the industry type. We have our transaction total. This is the subtotal area, not the actual metric that we're running on. I can go directly into more customization from here, but in this case, we want to just run the report and get a first glance at it. So we're not going to be pulling any data right now because by default, your reports will show you the subsidiary that you're looking at. And in this case, it's going to the parent company and not my parent company consolidated. We're not capturing anything at the parent level. So I want to roll up all of my sales into the consolidated level. I want to open up my date to year to date. And I can do this year to date, which will just really automatically fill in my period here. Now when I hit refresh, I have all of my transactions by industry type, which is our first column here. Now on the bottom right-hand screen, you've got a few options you can choose from. You can collapse all of your fields, which will bring all of my industry types together and sum them. So now I know that most of them are unassigned, but I've got still knowing that my wine and distilled beverages over this year has been the highest performing revenue industry. I also can export this report into an Excel file, a PDF. This is a CSV file, which is great for importing into other or integrating into other systems. I can export it to a Word document. I can print this report, which will just populate a print dialog box. And I can also email this report. And I can select the recipient from the contact list in NetSuite, or I can actually copy the other individuals from that list, or I can actually type in the email. I can choose whether or not I want to BCC or just CC that person. I can create the message content directly from here, customize exactly what it's going to say, and I can include attachments that are included in the NetSuite tables. So this is a very unique and cool feature that you can do, is email directly from NetSuite. So in this case, I want to know who my top performing customers are. In this case, I only have invoice information, date information, and the invoice number. There's nothing really here that gives me what I'm looking for. So now I'm ready to customize and see the report builder. Report builder is made up of your column editor, filter editing, your sorting features, and more options, which is access and audience features. So long name is going to give me the transaction type. In this case would be invoice or journal entries and so forth. We don't need that information, so we're going to go ahead and remove this column. And you'll notice that all of these columns have shifted over and nested under the industry type. That's because the industry type column is set to group. This group toggle will actually take the following field and nest it within that column and allow that expand and collapse functionality that you saw earlier. So what we want to do is group the industry type, but we want to include the company name of which we've sold the items to on these invoices. So we're going to drag company name over in the add field section to the right of industry type. Now I can select my industry type and hit group, and it will nest my company name underneath the industry type and give me exactly what I'm looking for. I can also group with previous column, which will pretty much preserve that same functionality. And now we have it by date and document number because these are connected. So once I remove that, we're ready to hit preview and see the changes. So we keep seeing unassigned here, and perhaps we want to get rid of that. So once I drag this over and I break down my existing industry types by customer, I can now do another drill down. This is that nesting functionality that we talked about. Well, let's say I want to get rid of unassigned, because that's going to appear everywhere and it's going to capture data on transactions that I haven't filled out this field on. So I'm going to go to return to customization, and I'm going to set a filter. And on the sales transaction, no, this is a customer field. I've got industry type. I can just click industry type, and it will allow me to filter the results to a specific set or subset of results. I can actually add all of them, or I can say not equal to. So what I want to do is not empty. So I want to make sure that there is not an unassigned industry type. Show and filter region allows me to bring up the industry type right next to where we had the subsidiary option that we saw before. I can sort by additional fields. I can sort by name after sorting by sales. So if I go to customer name, descending yes, first it will sort by sales, and then it will sort by name. And as we talked about before, let's say we want this to appear front facing to a specific set of users. This is where you can do that. You can actually go into your audience, and you can go to your access and limit the access of this report to specific users. In this case, it's good to do sales US, and we can limit their subsidiary to a specific subsidiary as well. Now, since I'm admin, this won't necessarily apply, so it's safe to just have this one run open for the sake of our example. But we're ready to run this report again. And we have industry type is not empty. So this is where it pulled that field. Since this is a very specific set of rules saying not empty, I can't override that. But when I collapse, I got rid of the unassigned. Now, one important thing to do that's easy to forget to do is actually save your report. And that about covers, and I know that we had a little bit of a delay there, so I want to be cognizant of the time, but that about covers what we have for the customization of the reports. Hopefully that familiarizes you a little bit on the customization screen. One of the bigger tricky parts is how this nesting functionality works. Another cool thing that you can do just while we're looking at this is adding a formula field. any field that's numeric in these columns, you can create a formula field which will allow you to include mathematical formulas that are limited to sum, difference, percentage difference, ratio, and multiplication. But that is another cool functionality if you have unique ways of calculating different transaction numbers. So again, always save your report, and it will then appear, oh, we forgot our formula here. And then it will appear in your reports tab under saved reports, or excuse me, saved searches. So now I'm going to hand it back over to Chris, and we'll open up the Q&A.
All right, awesome. Thanks very much, Jimmy. Just going to cover a few follow-up items, and then we'll move to the question and answer section of the webcast. So if anyone has any additional questions at this time, please feel free to type them in, and we'll address them very shortly. The webcast today is part of GSI's ongoing educational webcast series. Today was NetSuite. We also JD Edwards and Salesforce. These are free educational sessions that we do. And the upcoming NetSuite webcasts are listed on the screen in front of you. If you want to go out to our site, it's getgsi.com/webcasts. On our site also, we have our resource center. So if you're looking for other educational resources on NetSuite, just go to our new website that we have and go under the NetSuite tab, and you'll be able to find all of the information on the resource center, such as all of the webcasts that we do. So all of these webcasts are recorded, so you can go back and watch them at a different time. And we also have all of the presentations listed. So there's other things on there, white papers, case studies, etc. So please feel free to check that out. Again, that's on our website at getgsi.com/resources, or you can get to it through the NetSuite tab. If you want to sign up for weekly emails on upcoming webinars, or to get our monthly newsletter that we produce, just other information such as the Resource Center, just go to our website at getgsi.com. Go to the bottom of the screen and click on the link for each one that you are interested in. Okay, so we've come to the question and answers portion. Let's see. There is a question, and Jimmy says, where can we find the NetSuite updated KPI and dashboard PDF that was mentioned?
Yes, I saw that question just pop up, and I'm actually going to navigate to it right now, and I will include the link in the chat.
Oh, okay. I have a couple windows open here, so let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, while he's doing that, are there any other questions? Please feel free to type them in if you do. Would it be easier to share your screen and show it, or do you think copying the link will be just fine?
You know what I'll do is I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, hang on, let me get you there. You should have it.
Perfect. Yep. What can we see right now?
Seeing the graph where it says displaying
perfect.
custom KPI results.
Yeah, so this is the section here that gives you those 3 rules. Does not include any date fields defined as filters. This particular layout is ready to go straight from the Suite Analytics Suite Answers menu hierarchy. So what we're going to do is go to Suite Answers, Dashboards. We'll go to Key Performance Indicators Overview, and you've got Trend Graph Portlets. You can just click on Trend Graphs here. And it looks like this is now populating in my window, which is nice. There was a period where it was actually downloading it for me too. But this will give you all of the information regarding pop-up trend graphs and what kind of settings that you need to, or criteria you need to follow to get these trend graph portlets. Another really important one, I think, is setting up nested reports. You can actually do report snapshots in your portlets. And there's also a very specific subset of reports that you have to use and customize to be able to pull them into portlets. So on one of these, I believe, standard report snapshots table, this will give you, so what I had done is I went to adding report snapshot portlet, and then there's a link that tells you standard reports. Where did I see it? There's a link that says standard reports table, and it will allow you to see the list of reports. Here we go, standard report snapshot table. So you're limited to these specific reports to get it nested into a portlet. So all things that you need to keep in mind when you're building out these different portlets. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, let's see if there's a response here. Okay, another question. When building saved searches or reports, I have trouble finding the fields. Is there a good approach?
So when you're going to new saved search, and you remember when I scrolled down over to, you know what, I'm just gonna make myself a presenter again, or I'm gonna share my screen again. I think you'll need to make me presenter.
Okay.
I think I can make myself presenter actually.
I think you are now. Yep.
Okay. Is it showing my NetSuite screen?
Yeah, the new save search.
Perfect. Okay, so on new save search, this is where you can see the type of searches that you want to look for. This, yes, it can be a little daunting. I found that a good way to pull information is just getting familiar with your menu hierarchy, knowing that what you're looking for is a sales transaction or creating an invoice. Invoice is a transaction field. So we know that we're looking for a save search on transaction. If we're looking for a save search on, say, a list of customers, then we know that we're going to just go straight to customers. You really want to know where your fields reside, and that is familiarizing yourself with the menu hierarchy and the different forms where you're inputting information, and you can see where the information is housed. That has been good for me in the past, but really the best way to learn is just by creating saved searches from scratch. And that will help you familiarize yourself. Same with reports. As I mentioned before, you can go to new report and you can select what type of information you're going to report against. It always needs to be a metric. Locating it can be a little tricky, right? Because transactions is both here, but sales is also here, right? So again, really the best way is just by playing with it. But I found that editing existing reports is really the best way to get a quick win for the stakeholders. So you can actually go to sales by customer and you can customize this detail and you can add the industry type line. That's another way of doing exactly what I did by building it from scratch. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, Mike, if you have a follow-up question, please let us know to the question you just asked, okay? And he said thanks. So, yep, job well done. And Sherry said thanks also. So you answered both their questions. All right. At this time, I'm going to think there aren't any more, but we still have some time. So if anybody has any further questions, please feel free. I'm just going to go on to the next slide, and then we'll come back at the end and make sure that everyone's questions were answered, because these are very good questions. Okay. As a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit. We're always trying to improve these webcasts, so your feedback is vital to the future of these. You'll receive an email with a link to our resource center where you can access the recording from today's webcast, as well as a copy of the presentation. After today's webcast, we'll do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card. In order to be eligible for the prize, you must fill out the survey when you exit, and then of course we'll notify the winner. If you do have any follow-up questions from this webcast, I know myself and my colleague Joanne will be calling on the attendees that have signed up to make sure that there's nothing further that we can assist with. Sometimes questions pop into our heads after the fact. So we'll definitely be reaching out to everyone to see if there's anything further that you're looking for. But you know, the contact information for myself right now is on the screen, and Jimmy is there also. So if there's anything else we can do for you, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to assist in any way. Let me quick check the questions panel one more time.
I just submitted the link to the chat, so you should be able to see it in chat for the new dashboard PDF guide mentioned.
Perfect. I'll leave it up here for a little bit then. But that's great, thank you. That does appear to be it. I don't see any more questions that have come in. So, Jimmy, anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Thank you very much. I apologize for that blackout again, but I'm glad we were able to stick through it and that you all hung on for me as I got back online. So thanks everybody for your patience on that, and thanks everybody for your time today.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jimmy. Great job, great information. And thank you everyone who attended. We appreciate it. And if you need anything else, please feel free to contact us, and we hope to see you at the next webinar. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.